Alrighty, and we're back with the second deck of the evening. It's my good old best tournament performance deck of the last while, maybe ever on Magic Online. Velomachus turns. Now with a few small additions from Modern Horizons 2. So I don't normally do a deck tech on all of the challenge videos that I've played, so I'll just recap this deck a little bit. So Velomachus Lorehold is a 7-mana dragon, 5/5 flying, vigilance haste. Whenever it attacks, look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value less than or equal to Velomachus Lorehold's power from among them without paying its mana cost. Then put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So, obviously 7 mana seems a bit of a stretch for Modern, although you'd be surprised at how often you can cast it. Although the question is, what are you actually going to do with that once you do cast the card? I didn't know in the outset what that was going to be, but Freak You Nasty did. It's Time Warp and Savor the Moment. So Time Warp, of course, is target player takes an extra turn. But Savor the Moment says you take an extra turn after this one, skip the untap step of that turn. The trick with this card is, of course, since Velomachus has Vigilance, you're able to attack again on that next turn and get another trigger, which hopefully finds you a Time Walk. With 8 Time Walk effects in your deck, frequently getting Velomachus into play will result in a sequence of 2 or 3 or 4 turns where you can attack your opponent again and again and again and end the game. This can actually happen as early as turn 3, and I'll tell you how. We're playing Dwarven Mine in the mana base. This says when it enters the battlefield, if you have 3 or more other mountains, it enters untapped. And if it does enter untapped, you get a 1/1 red dwarf token. Coupled up with Indomitable Creativity, you use Indomitable Creativity for X equals 1 to destroy target artifact and or creature. In this case, you target your dwarf token. This is going to flip through your deck until you find a creature or artifact. In this case, the only creature it can find is Velomachus Lorehold, which you put directly into play and start attacking with. So that can happen as early as turn 3 thanks to Growth Spiral, putting an extra land into play for you. Make sure all 3 of them are mountains before you play your 4th one, or put your 4th one into play off of fetch land. Then the rest of the deck is either spells that help protect or enable your Velomachus. So Prismari Command exists in a little bit of every space with its many, many modes. You might get to see some of them on display here. Teferi obviously protects everything that you're doing. Remand buys you time, and Lightning Bolt can help you remove your opponent's stuff. But one of the most fascinating cards in this list, and one of the most powerful, is Wrenn and Six. So Wrenn and Six is red-green for a Planeswalker. It's one of my favorite cards of all time. It says +1, return up to 1 target land card from your graveyard to your hand. -1, Wrenn and Six deals 1 damage to any target. And -7, you get an emblem with instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard have retrace. Now, this card has been all over the place in terms of power level, in terms of visibility. One of the best things you can do with it in this deck is chain a couple of Time Warps and or Savor the Moments to gain extra loyalty on this during some of the earlier stages of the game once you've resolved it. And then once you have the emblem, retrace Time Warp over and over and over again by discarding lands and taking infinite turns that way. So this is the backdoor strategy to victory that is not as obvious to a lot of newer players to this deck, and frequently they'll mishandle when you should start hedging in that direction, or your opponents will frequently misevaluate the danger of Wrenn and Six in this deck and allow you to win the game with that. It's a very interesting deck in that you can play it in a very controlling, sort of mid-rangey way with Wrenn and Six and Teferi getting into play and just protecting those planeswalkers. And then sometimes when your opponent either overcommits to dealing damage to you or dealing damage to Wrenn and Six, all of a sudden you have Indomitable Creativity to sort of come from behind as a 1-card combo and finish out the game that way. So I really like a lot of what this deck does. It's sort of this mid-range controlling deck that can suddenly pull out the 1-card combo and win the game. There are some clunkier draws, especially Savor the Moment can be a really poor card. But I just like this deck overall. And I find the way the pieces come together to be very interesting and good for competitive play. I've played in at least 4 challenges where I've gone X and 2, and 1 challenge where I 2-3'd. I believe that's my sum total record, including the Mana Traders event where I was on coverage twice at a 7-2 record on that, and the most recent Super Qualifier where I 7-2'd and made top 16 in exactly 16th place. So we've also got, we're trying new card Prismatic Ending in the sideboard. The rest of the sideboard is for different sorts of matchups. The most important cards there are the 4 copies of Aether Gust, and that is because Blood Moon is a complete beating for this deck. You will not win once Blood Moon is down unless you have a solid plan. So we do have to watch out for Blood Moon decks. Currently, there's a lot of food nonsense running around. Asmar and Omardica Diced in a Kuldakar could be problematic for this deck because even Teferi cannot stop her from sacrificing 2 food tokens to have Velomachus deal 6 damage to itself. So that's a card and a deck that we may have to adjust for in the future. I'm not sure yet, but that's the reason we're playing this league here, to see how Velomachus measures up against the greater span of Modern. So, RK99, would you prefer that deck to be played with Sedgemoor Witch in the main deck, or with Lurrus as a companion? Just so I know. Which way would you prefer it to be played? Okay, but if I'm going to play it and you want to see it worked on, okay. I think I'll probably play a Sedgemoor Witch version. So if I played Lurrus, I could probably play Turok more confidently. I'll think about it. I'm definitely interested. So I haven't played any black-red, black X mid-range in a minute. Back to the long queue times. It's the Soul Mass Transit System. All right. And away we go. Dark Wolf Yoda. So many names I've never heard before coming up in the leagues now. This feels like a mulligan. It's one of those classic, this hand is probably not good enough for Modern kind of hands. Not doing anything until turn 3 is like really silly. Opponent did take a mulligan. No companion. It's a silly keep. I'm keeping this. I wouldn't recommend keeping this, but since I'm in the dark, this definitely, I mean, I say definitely, this almost definitely has turn 4 creativity, Prismari Command on 3. So just prioritizing the cards. If I'm against a black X discard based deck, Watery Grave, Serum Visions. Okay. Could be Ad Nauseam. They don't normally play too many Shockland. Jeez, that's a tough draw. Third Indomitable. So as I said in the deck talk, this is one of those clunkier draws you can hit. Bloodstained Mire. Godless Shine. Stoneforge, okay. We got Prismari Command for that. But that's not until turn 3, which is a little... Okay. Well, at least I get something to do on their turn. They're fetching? They have a Teferi? Or maybe Thoughtseize. Whoa! 4-color Stoneblade? What are you up to? Vindicate? I'm sorry, what now? Okay, but now you can't Stoneforge. Yikes. Okay, well. Fair enough. Fair enough. Stubborn Denial? Oop. Wrenn and Six. Yeah. I feel like they're going to take my Wrenn and Six, but at this point, I really wouldn't be surprised if they took anything here. 4-color Shadow, but it's not the right 4 colors? They took the Savor the Moment. That's wild. What? I mean, I guess. You do you, opponent. Triome. So I could just jam here, but I think that's probably suicide. The downside is if I put 2 dwarves into play for next turn to try to go Indomitable for X2, they're likely going to be able to stun me by that point. But I could just chump block with a dwarf here on their Death Shadow. It just depends on what they do with this turn. There's lots of ways this could go. So, not going to get invested in any of them before they happen. Fetch Shock, 6/6 Shadow. Sword of Fire and Ice would be devastating. Batterskull. Okay. Okay. So it sure looks like they have Stubborn Denial up. So I think I look to take the 6 this turn. Then cast Prismari Command on their turn to try to kill the Batterskull. And I have 2 blockers for the 2 shadows. And then I have another dwarf afterwards for the Indomitable on my next turn. Although, no, that just helps me out on the next turn. Perfect. Although that could help me to resolve the Prismari Command now. But I'm actually not super invested in resolving the Prismari Command, I think. I just don't need to. It's fine if I do. But if the card I'm worried about is Stubborn Denial. So, target player draws 2, discards 2, and destroy target artifact? Or do I want a treasure token? I think a treasure is probably fine if this does resolve. Wow. They've always got it. It's always last card stub. Literally always. They're swinging with the germ, huh? I like your Moxie opponent. And actually the Remand for TBR could save my life here. If that's their last card. Which is very nice. So, if it only 1 turn spell, we're very likely to win off the Velomachus. They have only 1 blue mana, so Stub won't do it. So I'm about to go to exactly 1 and hopefully win the game. That's kind of great. They had a draw step stop. If they had had Kolaghan's Command, it definitely could have been bad there. Bolt can't stop me. Push can. So specifically Fatal Push is their out. To which I will be 110% dead. Kaio's go? Something? Nothing yet. Dismember? Yeah. Yeah, Dismember. Time Warp. Got them. They're dead. And that's the way the news goes. Yeah, Dismember is a good good name, Smoochiello. That's actually the bane of this deck. If Dismember is ever a very popular, I did see the new Lanternless Creeve. It's on my computer right now so that I can load it up to play it. So it's coming. I should really get that one tomorrow. Time Warp again. Love it. I don't even need it. They're dead this turn, but just so they know. They were really dead. Bang. Got him. Dragon go bang bang. Winning the game at exactly 1. And I needed every single one of my dwarves where I had them. This actually seems like a really good matchup for Prismatic Ending and Veil. I think its growth spirals out. Maybe 1 bolt and 1 remand? No, maybe just the remands. I usually like bolt in these matchups just because it often gives you the closing power you need. Remand's not usually great just because they play so many 1-mana spells and many of them are very relevant. Do I have Angled Lufa's updated list? I have whatever list did well in the challenge. If you're looking for the one that was in the 5.0 that was posted today, I haven't looked at that yet. But okay. That hand was almost a Q. Okay. Any fetch land fixes this hand really well. So Godspeed, little hand. We lead on Dwarven Mine basically no matter what happens, and just pray. It wasn't Angled Lufa in the challenge though. Oh, when you said that's the one, you mean the one I was talking about in the 5.0 dump. Okay. Bye, Wrenn and Six. It's the worst hand I've had in this deck in a while. The island is really bad with the no spiral sideboarding. But okay, we didn't draw the fetch land anyway. We drew a Steam Vents. Doesn't help cast a Wrenn and Six though. So I need access to a white source. Yeah, Karn is definitely something you want to be playing right now if you can. Bolts? I got Sword of Fire and Ice. Yikes. Okay. Ah! Okay, good. We're just not gonna play any magic this game. It's fine. I probably should have mulliganed to 5, but the fact that they're always gonna have turn 1 discard. I say always, like obviously not always, but they're almost always gonna have turn 1 discard means I'm not happy to do that. Why do they always put their stuff in sorcery speed? Fire and yikes! Yeah, that's the draw. That's the draw there. I mean, they could have a stub for this. If they do, it's gonna suck, but if they don't. Do they have it all? I guess I could actually top deck a mountain and Indomitable. Not a mountain, a fetch land for a... Yeah, of course. How could they not? Imagine Shadow ever not having turn 1 discard into turn X Stubborn Denial. Imagine. Just try for a second to imagine. You can't do it. Because there's no world that exists where that's the case. You whispered the list to me on Twitch, because I can't see those right now. But I will be able to see it later. That's a card. Jiggy, did you just do a paraphrase of that Halo meme? He protect, but also he attack. I should kill the sword here, right? Because if this is going to resolve, I might as well. Yeah. The downside is if they have Batterskull in their hand already, but... Oh, no, I understand, Jake. I'm just saying it sounded like... I don't know if you're aware of the meme, but there's a... I think it was the creature, the main character from Halo 1. Master Chief. He protect, but also he attack. If there are any meme experts in the chat. I think memeology is something people actually can get like doctorates in now. Which I assume Richard Dawkins finds hilarious. They cycle Street Wraith. It's like, did they just shock? Good lord. So I think they have another stub in their hand, which will probably get burned on this time warp, which is fine by me because they like didn't do anything proactive this turn. Maybe they're playing like weird cards like Counterspell or something in their deck. They're probably playing Kaya's Guile. Ephemerate! What? That's wild. Gets the Batterskull. Gets the Sword of Feast and Famine. You could put the Batterskull now. You could put in the Batterskull now and get the Sword of Feast and Famine for it. Gosh, that's quite the play, opponent. Oh, they didn't cast it. But why? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom. Rats. I'm not dead yet. I mean, their deck is definitely weird, Tortured Sword. I've seen more brews in the last week than I feel like I did in the entire month before that. Okay, that's big game. You're waiting for all the equipment. Yeah, I know. So Batterskull's coming down. It's going to make it take longer for me to win. But, yeah. If those cards had been in the reverse order, this would be way closer to over. But, uh-oh. Village Rites. What? They Village Rites their Stoneforge. You monster. Uh-huh. Classic combo, Batterskull, Death Shadow. You know what you should do now, opponent? You should equip the Batterskull to the Death Shadow. That's the big brain play. That's what all the cool kids are doing. Shoot. Well, if I cycle it, I won't be able to cast Indomitable plus Veil. So we just got to go for this now. Any removal spell, any counter they have beats us here. There's no I guess I could kill some of their creatures. Kill the Batterskull. I might as well overpay for this. Kill the Shadow? Sure. Stub number 3. Let's see it. Huh. And if that Time Warp had resolved, we would have been in a better spot, too. Yeah, go figure. Push. Veil would have been fine, but just couldn't recover from the bad mulligans. Wrenn and Six wasn't going to help either, though. They discarded a Wrenn and Six that I never would have been able to cast, so. Wow. Kaldra came down. Good lord. Kaldra's value fell off a cliff. Yeah, I think I'm okay with my sideboarding. Sorry, I just gotta turn off the AC now. I get so warm when I start up the stream. Should turn the AC on probably like half an hour before the stream, and then I can get it off a little earlier. Not that it's a problem. Not gonna trophy if you're aiming that opponent turn 2s you twice in a row. These are facts. All right, keeping that one. Just lead on fetch lands, represent the Veil. Not that I think this opponent's gonna play around it, but maybe for once, one time for the one time they won't have turn 1 discard, or will draw into the second Wrenn and Six. Play the Dwarven Mine on 2, and then play Teferi on 3, unless they have the second discard spell. So, good old plan. It's the old standby. Bing, bing, dee dee bing, bing, dee dee ding, 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 dee dee ding, ding, doo doo ding, ding, doo doo ding, ding, doo doo ding, doo doo ding, ding, doo doo ding, ding, doo doo. Actually, I don't even need to fetch here, unless I think I'm going to draw the next Wrenn and Six. Fine. I agree with you, Jig. I agree with you. It did end well, Roy. Started badly, ended well. Huh. We already hit a matchup where I brought in the prismatic ends. So that's kind of great. Opponent's all about that stub here. Which makes me want to fetch blue and play Savor instead of Teferi. But then I remember that Jiggy's watching me, and that's coward talk. Playing something like powerfully proactive here, if they do have the stub, they go fetch shock, stub me, and then hopefully they go shields down to play something. I doubt that they will. Yeah, no, I didn't have it. But I could Indomitable this turn, so we'll see. Or I could just play Savor, but then I have to fetch blue. But it's probably okay. Play crappy Explore if I have to. These are consistently the worst matchups for this deck. You just it's such a bear when all of their interaction costs 1 or 2 mana. Well, 1 specifically. But this weird build might give us a shot at it. They went bottom. Okay. Well, Veil's a good draw. It's a bit late. This is a bit of an interesting turn. I think I'm still all about the crappy Explore here. Just get it out of my hand. The downside of this is if I don't draw a fetch and they have a discard spell, I guess they could actually be playing some 2 mana counter here. They're not, though. Okay. And this is one of those games where I like, when I go back in my mind, I'm like, I played that Dwarven Mine on 2 and I've ripped into all the lands I need. Which means that I could have just gone Triome 1, Triome 2, third land on 3. Oof. And then the Dwarven Mine would have been live on 4. And my mana would have worked out better. But I didn't know I was going to draw into the lands I needed, so... The land I needed. I only needed 1. No threats whatsoever. I don't know if they're just, like, petrified over there or what. I mean, I'm okay with it, because it means I get to cycle another Savor. But I've drawn a lot of my time walks, which is not where you want to be. Okay, good draw. Not the best draw, but a good draw. Looking for one more land here. They're fetching. Getting their white mana finally. Wow. Well, that was unexpected. I guess that explains all the things that are in their deck. Explains the ephemerates. It explains the white-black. Haven't seen much of the red. Takes the creativity. Sure. Oh no. Bad draw. Teferi? Bolt. Bolt is acceptable. Triple red lands, no red? Oh, I see what you mean. Like in play, they have a lot of red mana, and they have frequently fetched up a bunch of red mana, yet they've played no red cards. These are facts. Just gonna take this for now. Bolts could close out this game hilariously all of a sudden. That is a card I wanted to draw. Oh! So they haven't played a black or blue spell. So lose the bolt here, that's fine. They can't stub me with grief. I've got veils if they have some other way to fight. Got at least a veil. No, I understand Torture Sword, but there's just no reason to... I don't think I'm supposed to veil that. Because then that means the way that I'm going to fight the grief is by bouncing it with Teferi, which means they get to play it again, which means I have to veil it then. It's like... What's that whole... The hell? Fair enough. I think they have black removal. I'm just gonna minus Teferi anyway. Jeez. Rough draws. Sorry, it's like that, you need the bucket to fix the leak. You need the tape to fix the bucket. You need the something to get the tape. I don't... This wasn't actually part of my childhood. It's just something I know exists in pop culture in some way, shape, or form. Bolt. Okay. Bolt was unexpected. You have another one? Okay. Think I fetched Shock Veil here? Oh, we could just draw Velomachus at this point? That's good. 37 cards left. Velos Bummer. That's right. Yeah, that's the thing about Veil of Summer is like with the fetch land format making things like Burn and Jun so good at being aggressive just sort of by accident a lot of the time. Like because they need to do like 3 to 5 to 7 damage less than they actually have to win games. It's just one of those things that I'm just like I don't mind at all. Okay. So unless I double shock, I can't play that this turn. I feel like I'm just passing here. I think I can take 3. I think I want to save the Scalding Tarn in case I top deck Indomitable. Downside would have been if they played sort of Fire and Ice and equipped. That would be big bad. If they go draw step Ephemerate again, though, we're going to smash them. Nope. Shock. Draw 2. I'm glad I added something delightful to your life. This is my, like, 6th turn effect that I've drawn. What? Let's see. Savor, Time Warp, Time Warp. Brutal. They're at 5, though, so if I just find a bolt, this is over. So I think I just pitch Foothills here and pass the turn. Because I don't really want to fetch for Time Warp and put myself to 3 against another Lightning Bolt deck. Yeah, I don't need any turns to kill them. Velomachus will just kill them, so. I wonder what their hand is that they didn't counter that. Like, it must be pushes and stuff. But I can't put my last dwarf into play because I am boltable. Okay, I think we'll just jam Velomachus here. I know I don't have any protection for it, but like I feel like their deck is probably quite poor at actually dealing with this. Maybe they just have another one of the counter spells in their hand, like the literal actual factual counter spells. But it might just be pushes and bolts. That's what I'm hoping for. Got him. Ba-bam! Never back down, Jig. You can't push a dragon. You can't push a dragon. People have tried. Oh yeah, my boy Velomachus is coming for you. And he's gonna tell you he's the best in the world. Oh. Oh. Alright. COVID Vax sore spot is does now exist. Alright. Alright. It's not bad. I just noticed it for the first time. It's kind of the same thing, Mord. It's kind of the same thing, Mord. Oh, Roy, you might enjoy. My Time Spiral remands came in the mail today, and when I opened them, these are the first Time Spiral remastered cards that I've seen, and they're stunning. If you wanted scale ups, they're in that set, and I'm sure they look every bit as good as these do. No, the borders look perfect. They look perfect. The colors are so rich. They look to me they look exactly like I'm holding a card from Onslaught. They're freaking beautiful. They're tremendous. They're terrific. Everything I want and more. Shock Stomping Ground plays nothing. Hello, Lightning Bolt. Not the best draw ever. Yeah. It's just the scale up should be relatively cheap within the next few months, Roy, but then after that they might start going up because there's going to be no reprints on the set as far as I know. Oh, they're a food deck. Yeah. We're going to see Asmorano, Marduk, Dice, and a cool card. Oh, Noose Constrictor. Okay, so we're getting some, like a janky food deck. Or Madness. Jund Madness. Discards Oval Chase Daredevil. Sorry, Daredevil. Discards Bartered Cow. Blazing Root Walla. You're missing out on a bunch of damage, right? And you don't have a Vengevine? Ah! I got you now. Well, that's pretty impressive. Not gonna lie. Well, the hollow one is kind of doing the Vengevine impression for them here. I would like a bolt, please. Wrenn and Six will do. But I gotta fetch Shock for it just to kill the Root Walla. But then I can play Teferi next turn, bounce the hollow one. Alright. Getting the Root Wall off the battlefield here is pretty important. That thing, 3 damage for 1 mana. It's pretty good throughput. So, Roy, I think you would be pleased with the fact that I actually did the due diligence, though, on manufacture. And the first dictionary I looked up said that it was a typo. That I probably meant manufactory. Or manufactory. I'm not sure. But I actually did do the diligence after we recorded that episode. Because I was like, is manufactor like a correct usage? And the dictionaries I find did not say so. Which I was surprised about. Oval Chase Daredevil doing some work over there. I wonder if they'll bother killing Wrenn and Six here. I think they did. The way the Noose Constrictor attacked there, I think that means... Yeah. Which is fine. Hollow One's probably going to come right back. Gravecrawler. Okay. Well... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, I can't not play Teferi, and because I've got this island, this is just going to work out badly. I don't think we can survive this. But timely reinforcements out of the sideboard should be quite good against this. And Prismatic Ending. So we should be okay. Teferi, I don't think is going to save us, Roy. The biggest problem is they're going to have the second food token this turn, which means Asmar and Amardic, a Dice and a Kuldakar can sacrifice 2 foods to kill my Velomachus if I put it into play. And our hand just ended up being a little bit clunky and awful here. So it's fine. We were on the draw, mediocre hand. They had a... I don't know how good that start is for them, but we'll be fine. Teferi scapegoat. You didn't save us! You were the chosen one! Oval Chase Daredevil Underworld Cookbook is, in fact, pretty great. I'm impressed. This is the first time I've actually seen it. Yeah, almost, but not quite. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I didn't say it was broken, Jig. I don't think it's broken. I just think it's better than I thought it would be in that deck. Nobody said it was broken. You know I didn't say it. Did you? Fair enough. Wait. Card has more no Mardika dice than a cool card. Target creature deals 6 damage to itself. So that is a black-red ability. So Remand could be better. Thanks, Phoenix. Veil of Summer could be better than Remand. Remand it just seems really bad here. So I feel like I want to bring in Aether Gust or Veil. Aether Gust is probably really good on the play. Try to pay a little more attention to how many cards they actually cast. It's like getting the Noose Constrictor down or out of there for a second would be quite relevant. And Lightning Bolt is not a good removal spell for that card, so it's probably fine. Timely is like the #1 gain post board, and then Prismatic Ending also seems fine. No, can't keep that. Can't keep that either. I mean, I could. I don't want to. Seriously? This is how you're gonna do me? Alright. How good is the green incarnation? It looks really good, Roy. It's just hard to sell me on it right now. Me or anyone else, I guess. It's just it's not what's the right way to say it? 3 mana for a 1-shot graveyard removal spell is not that good, and going down a card for the free one is also not that good when there's already things like the trap. So it seems really good. I've heard that it's much better in Legacy. It's great side. I don't know if it's great sideboard, Phoenix. It's good. I'm not saying it's not a good card. It's definitely a good card. It's just No, I understand. Like it's yeah, it's a 3/4. I mean, that's a big game, and especially in Legacy, right? That swats a Delver, um, which is a big deal for them. So drew Prismatic Ending here, which is really nice. One more land, and we're really in business. One more land, and I'm the one who's cooking. Boop. Discards in response. Sure. Street Race. Who's restricted? Sure. Oval Chase. Asmora. Overgrown Tomb. All the way. Sure. Okay. Aether Gust would have been really good to have there, but I think getting rid of their book was probably close to as good. Yeah, because that meant they didn't get to play Asmore this turn. And Asmore is problematic for us. Uh-huh. Seriously? So I can't let them play that because then they get another book. And then they get to start looping the Oval Chase. So I need to top deck a fetch land now. I can't draw against this deck. It's fine. Yeah, it's a Fairy Stops Madness. Wait, what? Did they bottom it? Oh, they did bottom it. You're crazy, opponent. Okay, maybe we have a chance. They've got one card in hand. Shoot. Seriously? This is how I lose? Ugh, that was rough. All right, that's fine. Every deck just doesn't draw sometimes. They had a reasonable draw. I had to mold a 5, couldn't find anything playable. You can go to 4 in this deck. I didn't. I probably should have. But like, I don't know. I think I was just a little tilted. You'd bolt yourself there? Eh. I don't like the disrespect. Okay, we were never drawing out. Got it. Again, like some people on the other side, like I usually applaud my opponent when they do it for whatever reason. Like I don't like to do that myself. Like the way from my perspective is it looks like I don't know. It just doesn't. I don't know. It's not my kind of game. I think it's probably like a paper play thing. Whereas like in paper that feels like a USC minor in some cases. Like it feels like you're being a bad sport. I don't think you are, and I didn't think you intended it that way, but I don't know. That's what happens when I'm tired, my brain just starts rambling. Like probably should have just bolted myself there. on the play against 16 kilometers. And we cannot find playable 7s. All right. If I'm playing against a discard deck, I'm gonna lose it. Ugh. I guess we won the first round, and then we were definitely in round 2, no problem. I just couldn't draw out at all in game 2 to get to a game 3. Windswept Heath. I've not seen a whiff of. Huh. Yeah, it's a card right there. That's a good draw. Probably should have gone Foothills for Ketria Triome here. But if I draw Teferi, I'm going to want to have access to it. Sterling Grove. Oh. Oh, touch the butt. You touch the butt. I mean, it might be. Yay, we're going to combo. Combo. Although, we're probably going to whiff. Whee! Bang! Wait, Solitude? No Solitude. They do have snow-covered lands, and they are an Enchantress deck, so they could have Thin Ice. So I want to make as much out of this Velomachus as I can here. Yikes. But it was not to be. Yeah, at least I have a land. Oh, come on. Alright. If I get Thin Iced here, I'm going to be so mad. Going to be so mad. Okay. And nothing. Okay. Woo! My deck did poorly. Their deck did bad. I think MTGO said no to my opponent much harder than it said no to me. That is a quality flavor text for Remand, Phoenix. Well, they're letting it just go to the end, huh? Fair enough. -4. So Prismatic Ending seems good here. And probably Gust. Probably cut down on bolts. Well, maybe cut down a bit on remands, because one, they've got cast triggers, and two, they probably have Veil of Summer off the board. We'll also see what their deck is like a little bit more in game 2, because they might have been missing a color. Incoming Ghostly Prison. Well, I have Prismatic Ending now, so, and Teferi, and usually enough mana to work with. Now, double, triple Ghostly Prison, or that other card, the one from Gatecrash, or Gatecrash Block, where X is the number of enchantments you control. They get taxed for that many. That card could be problematic. Opponent is a lovely, chatty human being, which is good. I appreciate. Oh, that is a great draw. So if they play Sithis, they'll be able to play a... Oh. Okay. They can still play Sithis. Or they can now play Sithis. I thought maybe they'd have a presence. Sanctum Weaver. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to get Steam Vents to kill this. Yeah, keeping all the bolts was correct, for sure. And Teferi. Everything's coming up Millhouse. Presence? Perfect. It's going to be a big tempo loss for them. It's basically over. Velomachus turns. Feeling good despite the nonsense. The new format nonsense. Yeah, they're light on lands. Ooh, Sithis. Sithis into a 1-drop. That's big value. Okay. This game I've only drawn one turn spell. So, in theory, we should be good to go here. Manufacturer is so insane. I agree with you. I love that card. Do you feel like our builds identified something that I was feeling was very much lacking in that Sultai build I played? Is there... Because it really felt awful. Just awful. It felt like I was feeding the deck into the wood chipper nonstop. And maybe that was the matchup spread, but I'm just not sure. And like, I don't know. I feel like Aether Vial is like really a solid choice. Okay, no Time Warps were in there, so we're not going to shuffle this time. You always want to pay attention to whether or not you saw a Time Warp in the pile. Oh, we have Wrenn and Six on 7 now and a Time Warp in the graveyard, so this is over. Deterministically. But okay, this time we do want to shuffle because there was another Time Warp. It doesn't matter anymore because we've got the Wrenn and Six ping plus the dragon attack. So it's over. I think my opponent's about to drop by the stream. Just always did light. All right. So 2-1. Nice quick round 3. It's kind of like playing against Heliod. Not cheating, you swear? I mean, the match is over. Oh, you're here. That's you. Yeah. Sorry. Being a streamer means sometimes people come in here and they're like, aren't you worried about stream sniping? And I'm just like, not at all. Even a little bit. One, I'm nowhere near big enough. And two, whatever. Just... So yeah, you can get the deck that I'm playing always 16 kilometers by typing !deck in the chat. So that always works. And yeah, I 7-2'd the last Mana Traders big tournament thing with this. I 7-2'd a super qualifier with this deck. So it's legit. It's very much legit. This is like a top tier deck. I'm taking it through a league for YouTube to see how it stands up to some of the brews that are floating around right now. I lost to a Jund version of the food deck, but we had abysmal draws both games, and then we ran into you and we just bulldozed you both games, so that balanced out. You can hit some clunky draws. That's for sure a vulnerability of this deck, but I love it anyway. When you get the dragon in play, you're just flying by the seat of your pants. Boy, I hope I hit a time warp. Boy, howdy. I sure hope in these 7 cards there's a time warp, because if not, we might be dead. It's modern. And then sometimes you're not. And it's great. On the play. Love it. Good hand. Velomachus in the hand is not great, but Wrenn and Six fixes all sins, unless we get discarded. To all the warpless play? Yeah, I guess so. Without Mystic Sanctuary, yeah. You right, dog. You right. Opponent also 6. They didn't have a Luris, so I'm less concerned about discard in game 1. The Luris decks as a whole are the discard happiest right now. Rather than, I guess, Boomerjund. Ooh, Zitronic. Okay, I feel like the only way we lose this matchup is if I draw the other Velomachus. Yeah. I get that. Unless this is Etron. Having a good Tron and Titan matchup is one of my favorite things about this deck. By far. It's just so good. It's been a lot. I don't think I've ever loved a modern deck that had good Tron and Titan matchup. You're not supposed to say that out loud. I think the last time I played against Green Tron was the first time I lost to it. But I think my record against Titan is something like 7-1. And that includes like Premier play. Like I think I've lost against Titan. I'm not sure. I know I lost against Greentron once. I think Titan is still potentially 0. You're the opposite with the same deck. Ooh, that's a whiff, opponent. But you do get a beautiful consolation prize where the lovely Smithers is standing. The downside of this matchup not being Greentron, though, I mean, it still could be a Greentron variant that's running Chalice, but the downside of potentially E-Tron is they can have Dismember. But on the plus side, I'm really close to just winning the game with this Time Warp. Surprisingly high prowess win rate. My prowess win rate is not great. I think in Premier play, it's close to 50-50. Ballista. I have 2 dwarves and a Wrenn and Six. This is fine. If they have Ballista and a Dismember, that's quite the hand. So, how am I playing the next turn? I think next turn is just Time Warp. Because then I can almost just cast the Velomachus. Yeah, next turn is definitely just Time Warp. So, Tarn, fetch Triome right now. Then we Time Warp with Dwarven Mine. Or the Scalding Tarn into another Dwarven Mine. Yeah, just keep thinning the deck. And we'll see where we end up from there. Time Warps are in the mail, too. This whole deck basically is coming to me. I'm excited. Okay, so put in the second dwarf, jam the creativity, see where we end up. There's only one thing I could get, which was the etched foil Time Warps from Strixhaven. That was literally the only thing they have. Which I've heard are actually like less foil than a normal foil. So yeah, I'm getting the same one but edge foil. It was almost the same price as the edge foils. Was the regular one. They have this member. So they just had the kind of perfect hand. But this is fine. Ping the Ballista here. Sucks to lose the Wrenn and Six value. But we just play Velomachus next turn. If they have Thought-Knot Seer, then we're really up a creek. But English, Roy. I don't know if you're aware of how expensive those Japanese versions are. They're literally hundreds of dollars. The etched foil Japanese Time Warp, I believe, is $300? Maybe it's just $200. 200. No, that's Judge. Strixhaven, Arca. I think it's the 217. I think it's that one. All right. So now we cast the dragon. We always have the backup plan. Ha! And they called it a mine. A mine! Savor. Whoa, we're halfway there. Whoa. Living on a prayer. Yeah. That's what I saw from it, Binoka. No. And the thing is, because it's more subtle, it means it's less likely to warp the card. That's what I'm excited about, is that they might still be consistently tournament playable without me having to worry about them. So we get to bring in Prismatic Ending here. So this exile target non-land permanent if its mana value is less than or equal to the number of colors of mana spent to play this spell. So we can use this on chalices, maps, all sorts of stuff. Remand is less than great here. Generally. Everything else is pretty good. I think I'll cut one bolt. We used to just cut all the bolts. No, you know what? Remand's fine. They have a lot of non-creature stuff. I usually just cut all the bolts. It was for cleansing Wildfire before. But, yeah. Warping is the concern I have. I would play with foils if I could play with them with non-foils and feel confident about it in a tournament. The problem is I am a judge, and I'm just like, there's just been so many times where I've seen people's decks where I'm like, this is a marked card. This foil is very much marked. And if it's in a tournament and I deck check them, like, and that's what another judge will have to do too. And if it's me, I just don't want to do that. It sucks for the judge involved. It sucks for you. It just sucks for everyone. This is a really good hand if we don't get Thought-Knotted. So we beat the Dismember there, which is pretty good. Yeah. But then the thing about Remand Phoenix is it also hits things like Ugin and Karn. And if they don't have Tron, they usually don't have infinite mana for those cards. So that, to me, is a lot of value. Spares on hand and have a check beforehand. Yeah, that's the smart thing to do is go find the head judge or whoever you can that is a judge on staff and have them check your deck. It's not 100% guarantee, by the way. Just if you don't take my words that this is 100% gospel, if you get deck checked later and they discover there's a problem with your deck, you can still get game lost even though they said your deck was okay. They can miss stuff the first time and catch it the second time, and it's not that they're out to get you or anything, it's just that people make mistakes and they have to do the job that they're supposed to be there to do at the time. So if it comes up and it just shakes out that way, it sucks. So just be very careful. And some judges they just don't have as good eyes as other judges. They're not as good for looking for this stuff at looking for this stuff. There we go. Not as good at looking for this stuff. Yeah, the league queue times are weird. And I've heard and seen bigger players, bigger streamers having the exact same thing. All right. Looks like thought not. I thought so. Bye, creativity. I assume. Double growth spiral is pretty hot, though. I don't hate that. Creativity gone. You are out of here. Hey, Roy, did I tell you about my idea for a shitcam? Where I'm a retired umpire who opens a bar at the center of the earth. That's some quality season 1 Family Guy. Or maybe 2. Wow, we don't get many of you molten rock people in here. Well, at these prices, I'm not surprised. That's it, Brady. You are out of here. Crosses arms like he said the most clever thing in the world because it's obviously his catchphrase. Studio laughter goes. Just A+ all around. It's a different era for that show. Different era for us all. You know how dumb Peter is? I mean, yes and no. I feel like he got ridiculously stupid as the show went on. Much like Homer. Like, it went from being like an exaggeration of reality to like just complete farcical insanity. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Homer fits that same mold too. I mean, that was the sort of driving force in the Frank Grimes episode, right? Okay, so let's snap off a couple time warps and see where we end up. Where we're going, we don't need roads. Da na 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 na. Da 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 da. Let's do the time warp again. Let's do the time warp again. It's just a jump to the left. Do 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 do, and then a step to the right. Put your hands on your hips. Something about that character just like super over exaggerated. I'm very, very here for it. Can I growth spiral into this time warp? No, not with the way I sequenced there. I can growth spiral next turn and potentially draw another time warp. Although I probably just play Teferi, bounce the Thought Nut, and then I can potentially play an Indomitable if I draw it. Oh, or that. I could just play that. I don't want to play that. Yep. That's the play. I am going to keep one Dwarven Mine in the deck just in case I need it for later. For a snack. For my dragon. Let me out. Let me out. This is not a dance. Begging for help. Screaming for help. Savor. What, Doctor? This is one dragon that's gonna go the distance. And they scoop again. Opponent not having it. Just like that, we're playing with house money. Three one. Nice position for the 4-1. I haven't Binoka, but there is a different version that Jiggy Wiggy has been testing and doing quite well with. I believe he's currently 13-2 since his 5-0. I can throw that up on screen because I haven't transcribed the list yet. Okay, so we got, oh geez, 4 blast, 4 goose. There's 1 engineer explosives in the main deck. 2 compass, 3 cookbooks, 3 Lonus, 4. So he doesn't play recruiter. And he plays 4 thought monitors, and he's still playing Metallic Rebuke in the main. So he's got weirdly, Jiggy's actually playing more interaction than I am. He really likes the thought monitors. I found they got clunked up in my hand a lot. I didn't like that. And I really like recruiter. I've really, really enjoyed playing with recruiter and Aether Vial rather than 4 Mox Ambers. This deck is playing 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 legends and 80 cards, which is not satisfactory to me at all. It's not enough. I'm not comfortable like that to play Mox Amber. So I'm not doing it. Jiggy pulls this stuff off. And I've been enjoying the recruiter build, but I mean, the problem that I have, Binoka, is that I try to do a good job with this stream, and oops, sorry, I didn't hear it. And during this season, it just means playing a large diversity of decks because I feel like that's one of the strengths of this stream is I try to get through 2 new deck lists every single night, and get them posted up to YouTube. YouTube's been popping off in the last couple days, but I think that's just the overwhelming interest in Modern Horizons 2, which is great. But it does mean that I don't get to work on the same list a lot. Maybe tomorrow I'll come on in the afternoon, though, and bang out some stuff so I can work on the recruiter deck a bit. Mogus 67. Bring on the pain, brother. Nothing means nothing, man. Nothing means nothing. Can I keep this? I'm gonna. We're definitely gonna remand into fetch land, which gets me the green source for Wrenn and Six, or we'll just top deck it. I mean, one of the two. Whatever. It's all good. It's all good. I have a lightning bolt. Ooh, opponent says, you too, big fan of your brews. Mulls to 5. The Ragavans are for control matchups, Binoka. Whereas Galvanic Blast is just generally... No, it's been itching at my brain, and I'd love to get to it. It's just hard with how much stuff is going on. So in Jiggy's words, the Ragavans are for control matchups, which is a little weird to me because the deck is so creature heavy that I feel like they would bring in more removal. But I guess you're giving them more targets, and you already gave them a lot of like highly valuable, important targets. So it's not easy for control decks to figure out how to parcel out their interaction against you a lot of the time. Land, please. Land, please. Yes. Okay, good. I don't think I want to jam in Wrenn and Six here, just because I'm worried about getting remanded. Whereas instead I can play Prismari Command at their end step. I haven't missed my land drop yet, and I don't know what they're up to, so I feel like it's worth just waiting. Maybe they're on something spicy. Teamer stuff? Spire Bluff. Oh. Not something spicy. Well, I guess we're remanding some rhinos. Reveals 15 cards before they hit this. Spicy. Ping! Feels good. Feels good. It's the #1 hit, I think. Feels good, man. Number one jam. Which probably means they're playing like 4 Force of Negations, which sucks. This is about to get eaten. But then I have Bolt for this, and then I have this. Oh, really? Okay. Lucky me. Lucky, lucky, lucky. Wrenn and Tron. 18 hand. The classic. Total classic. I love that. Wrenn and 18. I'd really rather you didn't molester my planeswalker like that. You're molesting me. Bit mean. Bone Crusher. Oh, yeah. Suspends Crashing Footfalls. Aren't we hopeful? Aren't we just the little beacon of hope in a dark and stormy world? I love that for you, opponent. I do. That's great. You go, girl. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled on their behalf. So if they have Force here, they'll only have 1 card left in hand. And if it's Fire Ice, they can clear out both my dwarves and then hit my Wrenn and Six for 4. But 4 will not kill it, so I'm not really worried. Sorry, I was just thinking of bad scenarios. Hey, Binoka with that sub. It's going to put us up to 49 sub points, which means we are 1 short of unlocking the next emote slot, which I believe stays unlocked, but I'm not sure how that works. We might lose it unless I shove something in there, and then I might not be able to mess with it, so I'm going to have to learn how all that works, maybe. But that's a tomorrow problem. So blue-green, Spiral. I still have my natural land drop. That's not what I was looking for. So I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Every player draws 2, discards 2, plus make a treasure. Jeez. Just oops all lands, huh? Yeah. So I can fetch an island and growth spiral. All right, we're probably fine here. The fact that they suspended some dinos makes me less scared. I did activate my Wrenn and Six. Good. Good. They are playing Fire Ices. Goes the combat. Takes for 4. And the Wrenn and Six. Oh, they revealed 15 cards out of their deck, so I can see what they're up to. Brazen Borrower, yes. But no forces revealed there. Interesting. Growth Spiral. More than meets the eye. Growth Spiral. Value in disguise. All right. So they gotta do something to interact with my Wrenn and Six this turn. Wow, that is. We've kind of gotten almost every single land out of the deck here. I'm not mad, just disappointed. If they don't have Brazen Borrower or Counter Magic, they're done for. So, see what they got. Burn spells too. There's lots of outs for them. Lots of outs. Holy crap. What? Okay. Cryptic Command. What? Okay. Whatever. I mean, I still take an extra turn, so I'm not super upsetty. But a little bit. Spike's original version. I mean, he was playing Jace's last time I saw it. Okay, he was playing 2 last time I saw it. This probably updates. I mean, this is like fine. If I find Indomitable, it's gonna be over. It's not Indomitable. I think I'm gonna let another turn cycle go. Although, might as well get this resolved before they untap again. Also, if I find Teferi Time Raveler, I really want to play that now. Okay. Alright. Yeah, it's the turn. We're still on 3 cards in hand. Crashing Footfall still a whiles away. I've got a Prismari Command. I can play it end step if I want to. Dead gone. Sure. You got him. He's dead. He's dead, Gem. 2 dwarves remain. Only 2. 32 cards in deck, though. Like, very, very close to being, like, deterministic to draw more gas. Are we gonna do Cryptic me? What is happening? Seriously? You're crazy. Okay. You got it. Hope it was worth it. Jeez. Some people, they just pick their battle and they're like, this is it. This is the rock. This is the one on which I'm going to die. They can't Borrower. They can't Ice. They can't Cryptic. You can't force this. I guess they could have had Subtlety. And a blue card. Yeah, I was going to say, this is like almost 100% to hit. It's obviously not, but it was very high. Oh. Rude. I guess their last 2 cards, though. How about a 5/5 in play? Alright, you got me. Like, I could Prismari Command to try to hit Remand. But honestly, I just don't care. I think it is unlikely for them to be able to get out of this. They exiled Prismari Command. That's fine. Alright. What's up, Squidmit? Niels, Discipline Enforcer. 2 and a white, legendary creature, human cleric. At the beginning of your end step, for each player, put a +1/+1 counter on what to change that player controls. What is that? What is that from? Is that Modern Legal? That sounds like a commander card. Alright. If they have a burn spell, they can kill Velomachus if I block. If I Velomachus, so. Yeah, that's what I thought. It just reads like a commander card to me, so I'm like, that doesn't sound... Like, it could have been from Oath of the Gatewatch or Strixhaven with a name like that. Okay, so we can reset to another dragon plus... yeah, we can reset to another dragon and attack again next turn, so this is basically over now. So... Got him. And because of Wrenn and Six, I have the extra 2 damage I need to close this out. All right. Going to game 2. Teamer Rhinos. Teamer no problem. So, Dispute's not great. Veil's probably okay against a lot of their interaction. Cut some spirals, cut... An Indomitable is something I've been suggested from time to time. Oh, I guess Prismatic could be okay because it actually deals with a Rhino. I'm not sure. Maybe I want Aether Gusts. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I think Gusts on deck makes sense, and I think Bolt is probably the worst card here, which kind of sucks. Gust deals with Rhinos and with Rhinos. Veil helps me punch through. Remand's fine. Dispute is fine. Like, we need to have cards against the blue cards and against the green cards. And because they're not playing any ramp, they can't go off faster. The Wrenn and Six kind of put them in a bind last game by having it down on turn 2. Now they're more likely to be able to beat it. Although I wonder if they chose not to force the first one. I had 3 in my hand, and the other 2 just ended up getting discarded eventually and weren't particularly relevant. But this matchup does tend to boil down to being a lot about Wrenn and Six. It's cheap, and when you play it, it's hard for a lot of opponents to want to commit to getting rid of it. All right, I'm keeping this. It's not perfect, but we're on the draw, and I'm not sure I can mull to something that's much better. It's got Veil into Creativity, so I'll take it. Exile's Footfalls on one. Alright, well. We've got an answer for that. I found something that works. Might be too many Veils. That's kind of perfect. So the Rhinos aren't coming out yet. I guess if they had Violent Outburst here, that would suck. I mean, this is the classic Cascade deck thing. Okay, they didn't have it. That's good. Hey, Elop Cass. Good to see you too. Did I play you in the Mana Traders thing or something? Your name is familiar, but I can't remember from where. Okay. So they only have blue-green open here. So they got to have a lot to beat me getting a dragon into play. How's this deck beat Asmo? Do you have to wait for a bolt? Yeah, pretty much. Which... Oh, cool. Two damage to any target. Target player creates a treasure. Yeah. The reason I'm going to shock them here is... Sorry. I'm just making sure I pick the right modes and the right targets. 2 damage, and target player creates a treasure. All right, and it is in that order. Okay, good. You would take the safer route of Tefering. I don't think that's safe at all. So now they just have to have force. That's really all there is. How do you... I guess it shuts down... If they can't possibly... If I play Tef, they have to attack it. I shut down their second Rhinos, and I get to bounce one of their Rhinos. And I have another Veil for next turn. All right. Squirmit, you talked me into it. Just because if they have the force, I'm toast. But this way, if they don't have the force, it kind of puts me in a good spot. I like them being tapped down just because... Well, if they could have forced there, they would have, I think. Jeez, that's a draw. Not a great one. But I have a little bit of time. Kicking their second Footfall's ass here is great. And sometimes the removal they want is Petty Theft, which we can Veil. Cryptic Command we can Veil. So I just hope I get to Veil something on this turn cycle. I'm basically gonna Veil anything I can with 3 of them. I don't need this many Veils at all. I think the Rhino will head for Teferi. Yeah. And then, yeah, I'll take 2. Play more. Play more. You have to play more. You'll never beat me with what you have. Rats. Good draw. That's kind of what I needed. I'm not jamming here, though. I'm going to ding them, though. Get him! Death comes for ye! Let's get it on. I shot the sheriff and the deputy and his little dog, too. Violent outburst. Opponent. Why are you going to be so violent? Cascades into Pithing Needle. Alright. Somebody didn't read the documentation on their deck. It wasn't me. Somebody didn't read the documents on their deck. And it wasn't me. Name's Foothills. I was kind of interested. That's why I fetched Roy. Nice to meet you. Hi, Aaron. I hope you're doing very well this evening. I've had quite the run. It's been great. Yesterday was like all carnage. We were just dying left, right, and center. So this is a breath of fresh air. Kind of frustrating at the moment. Like the triple veil is really bad. I need them to play something I can target. I say target. Oh, they had a Foothills. Sorry, I wasn't even looking, Roy. I wasn't even looking. Yeah. I get it now. I think I have to creativity, but I have to creativity for 2, so the only way I can protect it is with Veil. Gosh, that sucks. This sucks. I mean, I could just Savor. Savor doesn't get me anywhere. I mean, I could start chumping the Shardless Agent, but yikes. Can creativity a dwarf plus the Rhino? Worst case scenario, I kill the Rhino, replace it with a 2/2 without trample. I don't hate that. Let's get a blue. Suppose they could have a bunch of burn in hand that just finished me off relatively quickly. It's funny how much this kind of feels like a mirror match. What's your hand, opponent? So this kind of helps me play around fire. Cryptic is the best case scenario for me. Cryptic plus a mystical dispute in their hand. Force is fine. Plenty of things that are fine that they could have. Burn spells are obviously the worst. Cryptic. Counter target spell draw. What if you were veiled? Boing. Force the negation. Oh. Oh. Skadoosh. Oh, they got a flyer. I forgot about the Brazen Borrowers. All right, we'll be fine. Unless they have a bolt. They can't have bolt. They will not have bolt. Hit a time warp anyway. They could have mystical dispute here. That's fine. Or force. Nope. Looks OVER over. Got him. Oh, but they can't Bone Crusher. This is a kind of Metamorphose deck. Yeah. It's a Polymorph. Yeah, this is a kind of Polymorph deck, essentially. That is correct. I'm assuming you mean Polymorph. Polymorph and the other card that frequently is used is Transmogrify. Wow. Just spoiled for choice, huh? Don't need that. I don't think I need double Remand, double Veil. Because once this Savor resolves, it's just over. So. It's funny to see this Temur Cascade Rhinos deck kind of take off all of a sudden because Aspiring Flag plays it. And I feel like it's really just almost the same as this. I guess they have 8 things that put Rhinos into play, but the Rhinos are not a win. So, I don't know. It's neat. Anyway, nice clean 4-1 on our side. The one loss was 0-2 to Food, and both of our draws were abysmal there. So, yeah. Velomachus turns. Still cracking. Still crack-a-lacking. Prismatic Ending was a fine sideboard card, and we beat E-Tron without Cleansing Wildfire. They were never necessary. It was just a matchup that I don't know, I felt like I wanted extra teeth against. And it's a good Cascade hit, which Prismatic Ending is not. Just more that Shardless Agent is also a threat to it now makes a nice turn clock. What? Are you just saying like Shardless Agent into 2 Rhinos is 10 power? So that's a 2-turn clock? The problem with that is like that's just so unnecessary. Like, first of all, you don't need 10 damage to be a 2-turn clock in Modern. No, it's all good. It's all good. You don't need 10 damage to be a 2-turn clock in Modern, and a 2-turn clock is slow. I've tried playing Indomitable Emrakul decks. That turn in between, man, it's brutal. I also don't like getting got so badly by Teferi. This deck does get stopped by Teferi. Velomachus won't be able to cast spells. But in my experience, Teferi is reasonably easy to deal with in this deck. First of all, you can harass him with Dwarves out of the mine. You're a Lightning Bolt deck. We've got Prismari Commands and Wrenn and Six. And when they're taking off time to play a Teferi, a lot of the time they get screwed over by Wrenn and Six going up towards taking turns. So, I mean, I'm not saying this. I'm not going to say this deck is perfect. I'm just going to say it's like it's got good game against control. It's got great game against most mid range. It's got good game against aggro. I mean, it just feels like very balanced. Every part of it works well, and the thing you lose to most often is just having very clunky draws. It's kind of like E-Tron that way, to draw an interesting comparison. A lot of the time, you have 2 different sort of angles of attack, and you can pivot between them sometimes. Other times the deck just says like, listen, this is all you're getting, so you better play this version of your deck. And you go, okay, I guess I'll turn 3 Karn the Great Creator and go get Bridge and just prison people out. Whereas this deck kind of does that with like, okay, I guess I'm playing turn 2 Rand and 6, turn 2 3 Teferi, and just like walking all over people. Yeah. What's interesting about Modern Horizons 2 is a lot of the decks get colded by something in there. Yeah. This one doesn't. The closest things are like Void Mirror stops Velomachus, but again, you're playing Prismari Command in the main deck as a Shatter, and Teferi to bounce it, and that doesn't stop Wrenn and Six from casting things out of your graveyard with the Retrace Emblem. Plus, it doesn't seem like a lot of people are actually using that card. It realistically, it feels like this deck is almost the same as it was before, but there's a lot less prowess running around, at least at the moment. Maybe the affinity decks or hardened scales could be a problem for this, but we could run Stony Silence or whatever in the sideboard with few issues. So I really don't know that that would actually be a problem. But I'm not sure. Anywho, that is going to be it for me tonight. So if you're in the future watching this on the YouTube, make sure you hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and tell me what you think about this video or any other video. Check out those other videos. Lots of Modern Horizons 2 heavy decks in there. But this was certainly not one of them, but it was good to bring out the old girl. And we're going to raid the creator of this deck, Freak You Nasty, assuming he's streaming. And I hope you all enjoy that. Affinities looked pretty brutal today from what you saw in other streams. As in brutally good, or they're playing it and it's awful? Because I would believe either. Jund is always viable, Meat Canyon. Now, if it's competitive in, larger events, I'm not sure. But that's a different issue. All right. Peace out, y'all. Take care.